بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وأزواجه وذريته أجمعين. Teleological argument for the existence of God. Okay. Also called argument from design. An argument seeking to drive the existence of God, so just the existence, and probably some of the conception as well, from the teleological order of the world. So the world is teleological, so the God exists. We'll come to what it means for the world to be teleological. Resting on analogy, in part, I guess, with the relation between an intelligent craftsman and human artifacts. So analogy, I mean comparison between two things, or more things, mostly or typically for the purpose of explanation or clarification. That's a dictionary meaning. For example, an analogy between the working of nature and those of human society. Comparison can also mean a correspondence or partial similarities. The analogy doesn't have to have an analogy doesn't imply exact similarity. Most time it means partial similarity. It also, if a thing which is comparable to something else in significant respects. So these are all the dictionary meaning. Comparison between two things. Number two, correspondence or partial similarity. Number three, two things if they are comparable to each other in significant respects. These are all meanings of dictionary meanings of analogy. So there's analogy exists. According to this version, anyway, we should treat teleological arguments as a type of argument rather than just one argument or one version. So analogy, this entry is saying partially or significantly rest on analogy between human craftsmen and a human artifacts. For example, a watch. If you found a watch on a beach, for example, you would naturally assume that it was made by some human, worn by some human, and it fell. You won't say that it came to existence there on its own. Because something watches has a function to give a time, and that's an intelligent function which seems improbable, at least, that would emerge on its own. It requires, or it sort of not just require, it's sort of what's the word I'm seeking? It's not the exact word I'm seeking, but it shows sort of it is made for some purpose by somebody who has intentionality or intelligence, for example. Similarly, the world, when we look at it, it's like a watch. It seems like it has a purpose, it has intelligence uh, in its functions, so it must be created by somebody intelligence. It seems improbable that it came to existence without an intelligent being designing it in some respects. In a similar way, in which it's hard to think the watch coming into existence on its own without an intelligent designer behind it. So, um, an argument seeking to derive the existence of God from the teleological order of the world, resting on analogy with the relation between an intelligent craftsman and human artifacts. Aquinas' fifth, Thomas Aquinas' fifth way of proving God's existence. He has 5 arguments, famous argument for the existence of God. The fifth one is teleological argument. According to this argument, is the design arguments or teleological arguments. It's everything in the world shows some order, regularity, or purpose in its behavior. There must be some supreme intelligence, namely God. So it also gives it's so it that's why I said conception, because it's a teleological argument. Doesn't just give us a existence of God, proof of the existence of God, but also some conception of God, that intelligent being, supreme intelligent being. It's not just a cosmic force, cosmic intelligence, but in a sense, a person, because it seems improbable that because there is intentionality, design um, reflected in this creation, like the creation of a watchmaker. So shows order, regularity, or purpose in its behavior. There must be a supreme intelligence. It's a backward argument, obviously, from the existence to the creator outside the universe. Why outside the universe? Because if he or she is inside the universe, or it is inside the universe, then that will require a reason of its existence as well, directing natural things towards their ends. But there's an intentionally. So the world shows an intentionality, a design that is going towards something, or it is designed for something. So there's a purpose in that sense, and that purpose is given by an intelligent being in the same way as the watchmaker gives the mechanism and designs watch for specific thing. A classical version of this argument from design was formulated by William Paley. So William Paley was an 18th century English Anglican clergyman, Christian apologist, philosopher. Uh, his version of design argument is normally in the readings and courses in philosophy when we introduce the design argument. But his is a modern version. Um, a classical version of the argument from design was formulated by William Paley. The various parts of watch cooperate in complex way. So that's the part of argument. A watch. It's complex and it has parts and they um, cooperate with each other, produce the result. That's a function of keeping time because the watch is designed by the watchmaker. So that complexity, it seems improbable that it came into existence on its own. The universe resembles a watch in the sense that it's a system of adaptation, means to ends. So there are certain things which are similar. So they are different, complex, they're different parts, they cooperate with each other for certain function. For example, there's a cooperation between different elements, of atmosphere to produce rain, for example. And that cooperation is complex for a specific purpose. It seems like, you know, the as the watch must have been created by a watchmaker or designed by similarly, um, the world must have been designed. Actually, I mean, it doesn't have to be a creator. So that's why doesn't necessarily prove that God is a creator. The argument, I think, because he can be just a designer. So that's why it is compatible with Aristotelian philosophy, for example, or the Greek uh, philosophy, which doesn't have a conception of a creator. The only way to explain the complex and pervasive adaptation to ends in the universe is to postulate. So it is a postulate. A supreme or supernatural designer. For the teleological argument, what is at stake is not merely that the universe displays order or regularity, but also the and regularity directed towards the end, because that's what gives you. So that's what intentionality is, and intentionality gives you a designer. Otherwise, if there is just an order, then there must be some cosmic force of order, for example. In dialogues concerning natural religion, Hume formulated a similar version of the argument by comparing the world to a machine. However, Hume devoted much of this working to criticizing this work to criticizing the argument. Obviously, he didn't believe in God, or probably didn't believe in God, on the grounds that what the argument seeks to explain can be explained by alternative ways. So that's a critique, and that the teleological argument cannot conclusively show the existence. No argument can conclusively. That's the thing about the argument for the design. So that's why they always just prove the possibility. So now, in my opinion, anyway, arguments for the existence of God only prove the possibility of God's existence. And for example, if you look at Ilm al Kalam, um, Islamic ilm al-kalam and like Ghazali's definition of kalam, it's clear that he is not seeking for conclusivity, and he knows that. But possibility is enough for him, because possibility and then gives you the reason to look at Islamic sources. Um, so no argument for the existence of God prove God conclusively. So those who are looking for the arguments for the existence of God to conclusively prove that God exists are looking for something in vain, I think. So it depends on what you are using arguments for the existence of God. But if you are looking for possibility, then they prove possibility. That possibility can be, probable or improbable given your other assumption and your background beliefs, but conclusivity, I think, is impossible. And that, I think, squares well with Islamic belief that this world, there can't be anything conclusive in this world. That this world is the world of trial and the world of preparation, not judgment. And also, as we saw, argument for teleological argument, for example, is compatible with a designer, supernatural designer who is not a creator, which is against Christian, Islamic, and I guess Jewish beliefs. So that's the other thing. So Hume criticized the argument on the ground that what the argument from design seeks to explain can be explained in alternative ways, and probably for him, those alternative ways are more powerful. That the teleological argument cannot conclusively show the existence of God. So Hume's criticism is only aimed at, or only successful against those who try to prove the existence of God through this argument conclusively. Otherwise, those who don't claim conclusivity, Hume's argument doesn't apply to them, or is not successful against them in this respect. Okay. Kant held that the adaptation of things to the needs of other things in nature can suggest, so it's possible, shows some sort of possibility, but cannot prove. Prove is like more probable or conclusive for the existence of a designer. And even then, it's existence of a designer, and not necessarily a creator designer. Hume's view is supported by the development of the Darwinian theory, which provides natural explanation of the functional adaptation in the world. It does provide an explanation, but is that explanation conclusive, and whether it can be applied to cosmos as a whole as well? That's the thing. And obviously, it cannot tell you anything about how something was created out of nothing. For example, if it was. Okay, this pithy quote here from Macpherson, The Philosophy of Religion, linked with the notion of design or order is the purpose. Hence the name teleological argument. Telos mean end or purpose in Greek. Okay, I think that was a pretty good entry as a introduction. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك وصلى وسلم على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وأزواجه برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.